Hi everybody and welcome back to the Seed Growing. This is going to be, I believe, episode 7 now. If you're new to the channel, hi, my name's Eddie. I run a company called Weirdy Tropicals. That's all about doing my garden tours, plant tips and tricks throughout the season to try and get the most out of your borders, beds and your garden. I'll do end of year kind of tips as well for like overwintering bananas and things, as well as planting schemes as well. But this whole series that I'm running today is just to do with trying to grow unusual things from seed, always tropical. So without further ado, I'll get at it. So excuse the pronunciation of this one if I get the seed packet. It's Leonotis, Leonurus, I believe it is, which is also known as wild dagger, lion's tail or lion's ear, which is an absolutely beautiful shrub that's native to southern Africa. It's covered in orange flowers as well, so it really is fantastic. Over there I believe it's evergreen, but in the UK I don't believe so. I don't believe it can take that level of cold. The information about this, I'll show you the seeds in a second, and as always I got them from Jungle Seeds. They are really small for what you're going to get from these. So these, I'll give you the background on them just so you know how to look after them. They're adapted to a kind of Mediterranean climate with like drier winters and then kind of rainy summers. So they get that hot, humid kind of thing during the growing season. But then obviously it's quite dry for winter, so they're not going to get sodden, waterlogged and all the rest of it. To get the best out of these germination, you can soak them for 12 to 24 hours, which I'm not going to bother with. You can, it says lightly scarified, but the seeds are really small, so I'm not going to bother with that either. And I'm just going to put them in. These are going to get buried. I'm going to use Mokoya and perlite mix, which I'll show you in a moment. And I'm going to surface sow these, and then I'm going to give a tiny covering because it's only 3.5 mil, so they don't need much on top of them at all. They are full sun plants once they get going, once they're established, and that's what keeps them flowering as well. If you're going to use heat, or if your greenhouse will get there anyway, 20 to 25 degrees centigrade or 68 to 77 Fahrenheit. Keep the soil moist, but don't keep it absolutely soaking. So I'm just going to check in on this daily. If you've got like one of the humidity domes like that, use that because it'll keep a lot of water. And I haven't had to water that plant for months while it's been trying. That's a little mani hot, by the way. So that ain't going to germinate for a long time, I wouldn't have thought. These grow between 5 and 8 foot tall, so decent size, and 3 to 5 foot spread, so a decent plant. In the UK, we might not get that because they're going to be grown as an annual. So I don't know how many seasons it gets to its final size, but if we're only going to grow it over one, they might not be as bad as that. Interesting fact for this one, so that's all you need for that one. So remember, 3 to 5 mil deep, 20 to 25 degrees centigrade, light covering over the top, that's that. These are used medicinally where they're found native to treat coughs, colds, and headaches and fevers. That's quite an interesting thing for a plant. They're also smoked, similar to other plants that you can smoke to give a kind of mild euphoric feeling as well. I'm not going to recommend that. I'm growing them to look at, not to smoke, but you do you. These are kind of hardy in USDA zone 9 to 11. Otherwise, these are grown as an annual plant. And they're a great pollinator for things like hummingbirds, but more likely in my area, it's more of like your birds, bees, and butterflies. So I will put some photographs on. I'll do it as I'm waffling, so you've got something else to look at as well. And then we'll move on to 2, which is an absolutely sensational palm. So plant number 2 is the lipstick palm. I'll show you the seeds in there. If you can see them, they're quite decent size. This plant has absolutely had me over. 3 times I've tried these seeds and 3 times I've failed. I am hoping through having the pressure of doing this grow along and people trying to kind of rely on the results. Again, Jungle Seeds is Cyrtostachys renda, which is the lipstick palm. I'll put a photo on screen. They grow gorgeous. Apparently, from the grower from Jungle Seeds, they said they were easy to germinate, so I'm clearly doing something wrong. They said where the difficulty comes in is after they've germinated, is keeping that moist, really humid environment because they grow unlike other palm trees. They're like hot and humid, which is quite similar, but very, very rainy. They grow in a lot of like swampy lowlands, like bog kind of areas abroad. So like a lot of these are actually sat in water. They're from Southeast Asia, more commonly found like on kind of like Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and Borneo. So when I'm talking humid, these things get humid. Like I said, these like water, really, really like water, unlike a lot of the palm trees. You got to sow these straight away because they lose their viability, same as a lot of seeds do. So don't be hanging on to seeds for years on ends unless they're like, your vegetable ones. But even then, you don't get the best results. Soak these 24 to 48 hours, hence why they're in this. Try and keep the water as warm as you can. But of course, obviously, as soon as you poured it in, it's going to go to room temperature relatively quickly, and change the every day if you can. To germinate, between 2 and 6 months. So these are a long burner. I'm hoping these will be a bit faster this time of year with like the outside temperatures being quite nice. We're looking at between 27 and 32 degrees C or 80 to 90 Fahrenheit. So quite high for a lot of plants these are. But again, in the greenhouse, I'm not going to struggle. I'm actually struggling at the moment keeping that kind of temperature out of the greenhouse. It's just begins like 45, 50 degrees in here because of how thick the perspex is on the roof. These are very slow to start with, but can kind of get a little bit of a move on once they go. They prefer light shade when they're young and then full sun later on, which helps develop the colour. They get the name, obviously, from the red crown shaft and the leaf sheaths, which are bright red, hence the kind of lipstick part on. The colour's most vivid, apparently, on younger plants more than older plants. Max height on these is 15 to 20 metres. So these can be monstrous, but more common between about 8 and 12 meters. But these are a difficult plant. So if you manage to germinate these, give us a shout in the comments. Let me know if you did anything different than what I've just shouted out. These are USDA 11 to 12, and these do not tolerate cold whatsoever. So just like the one on Cool Runnings, he's not having none of it. And it works exactly the same way. So make sure once they're germinated, they get that high levels of humidity as well. Moving on from that, so we've got an interesting palm and a beautiful like shrub from South Africa. Now we've got a really beautiful plant. If I get the name for you, here we go. There's Cleome, spinosa, violet queen. Again, jungle seeds. I'll put some things on here. The flower on this is absolutely fantastic. It's a really, really beautiful colour. These do benefit from 2 weeks in the fridge to kind of give that cold scarification. These can take, if you're trying to like plan these ahead of the season, so it's a little bit, not late now because obviously I'm planting these anyway and we'll see what happens. But what you would try and do if we were early in the season, I'd done this grow thing a little bit earlier, we would try and plan these 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. If you've got a greenhouse like this, we can get away with it a little bit longer because obviously the frost isn't going to come in here because I keep it about 5 degrees. But you try and plan 6 to 8 weeks, similar to what you do with dahlias and things like that. So that's for next year if you're going to grow them next year. What you can do is place the seeds in a Ziploc bag with a wet paper towel, put them in, fold it over, put them in the fridge for 2 weeks. That will help with these. I haven't got the time because I'm trying to do these every single week. Once they're done, bring them back out and then surface sow these, and then just give them a quick moisten over the top. They don't want to be waterlogged. Cover with a humidity dome, as I showed you earlier, like that. You can see the water's kept in there. Or if you just got cling film or a plastic kind of container lid off a takeaway or something like that, just put that over the top. Needs light, so don't obviously like put it somewhere dark. And humidity really needs temperatures quite low, between 21 and 24 C and 70 and 75 Fahrenheit. So it doesn't need anything astronomical. Probably could grow those on a windowsill in your kitchen or whatnot, somewhere safe facing. And these can germinate between 1 and 2 weeks. That's why I'm not leaving it till next year. Once they germinated, get them under light and let them go from there. These are an annual plant, height between 4 and 5 foot and spread between 1 and 2 foot. So quite a nice compact. Probably put them somewhere in the remit of a canna, somewhere like that. Apparently it's supposed to be fragrant. I'm not sure if that's just the leaves or the flowers. It said something about the leaves online. Full sun, and these come from, so these can get baked. These are from South America, so Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay and Argentina. Like I said, I'll put some photographs on the screen for this one. And then go on to number 4. This is another one. So palm tree. There you go. This one's Phoenix Roebelenii. Roebelenii, yeah, that's it. Pull these out for you. Decent size seeds on them. There's actually quite a few in there, so I'm hoping even if I get like 1 or 2 off that, I can live with that. So yeah, so it's nice. I've got a bit of a palm tree special today. Is we are going to soak the seeds in warm water for 24 to 48 hours. I'm not going to buy that, but if you can put it in water like these ones, just help the seed coat get kind of broken down a little bit. Again, with all of these, I'll show you the mix in a second. It's 50% coir and 50% perlite. And we're only going to sow 1 centimetre deep, so less than your first knuckle. Keep these moist, but again, not soggy. Temperatures between 29 and 35 degrees C. These are quite hot ones. Again, cover them with the humidity dome to keep that trapped in. These are found in like Vietnam and southern China as kind of native ones. Full sun. Growth rate on these is quite slow, up to a maximum of like moderate. So I'm not expecting miracles over these. These aren't magic beans. Water them when the top inch of the soil is dry. So how I treat my monstera, when the top's kind of like a powdery, kind of, you can mess with it with your hands and it's all bone dry. Give them a water all the way through and then let them kind of dry out just so they can get a little bit of air through to the roots as well. These can only take down to -4, and I probably wouldn't take them as far as that, or 25 Fahrenheit. So these are not hardy kind of plants. The interesting fact I'll show you about this one before I show you the soil mix in case you're new. In Feng Shui, these palms are thought to attract positive energy and prosperity. So hopefully these can bring some positive vibes to you as well. I mean, if we can germinate some palm trees, I'll be pretty positive about that. And in this day and age, all the things going on in the world, we need more positive vibes, yeah? So let me get the mix and I'll come back and I'll show you. So great time to run out of perlites when I'm filming the video. But as you can see there, that's coconut coir. That's made from coconut husks. And what I normally top the plants with is this gold stuff in there. That's called vermiculite, and I normally put that over the top just so I can see when the green stuff starts shooting out. So if you look at the similar measurements, 50-50, put perlite in this side, and coir, mix it all up. It doesn't have to be an exact science, so it doesn't matter if it's 70-30, 60-40. Just try and get it so there's a lot of drainage, and that's what the perlite kind of offers. It allows oxygen to get in there and not allow these to kind of become waterlogged. When the seeds germinate, the roots are at the finest they're ever going to be, so they need the easiest journey through this so they can get well rooted before we start disturbing them. And then what I would do is I'll put some of that vermiculite over the top. So all of these plants I'm just going to have to do with vermiculite and coir. I'm sure they'll work, but if you've got it, then use that. I'm going to get sowing on all of these now, and then what I'll do is I'll give you a quick update because some of the plants that we did like last week and the week before have actually flown away. So I'll give you an update now. Right, so just before I get filming, I've got my Montanoa hibiscifolia. I'm kind of getting the first set of true leaves. I've got the Melianthus comossus just about to start on their first set. I've just got 2 popped in there. Look at this, first one I've ever seen in here. Persicaria, the variegated one, and that's the first leaf with the variegation on it. This one is the Caesalpinia gillesi, and look at that already. When did I sow these? 26th of May. So a couple of weeks ago, and that's the size of it already. They're chuffed with those. There's not much going on in the propagator. I've moved some of the stuff over. We've got the papaya. It's now growing its first set of true leaves on that one and that one. Got the leucocasia doing well since I repotted. I lost a couple of them. Got the alocasia there. I've got I almost don't want to show you this one. The masanga is in a right mood. I think it just got really hot in here today. I'm hoping that'll bounce back by tomorrow. You're not going to win them all anyway. I've got the Ricinus are doing really well now that we grew very early on in this seed growing. And then a lot of the others, we're just waiting for like the bananas and things like that to germinate. So yeah, nice little quick spin around there just to show you what was going. And update me in the comments, anything that's grown for you so far. So you can see the final result. That's the mixture in there, topped off with vermiculite. And don't forget your label and the date. And as always, I just appreciate anybody watching. See my new flag I got? Just for the purpose of the YouTube videos. I'm going to decorate the back there so it looks a little bit little bit nicer. But yeah, let me know anything that's germinated, if you've even do the grow along, if you want me to carry on with the videos, X, Y, and Z. I've got about enough seed left over to do about another 3 videos, something like that. So I might end up on about episode 9 or 10. But let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.